you know that even with the best possible intentions, we all have biases, whether it is about gender or race or sexual orientation or whatever it is. And these do affect how we act. And they affect, if you think about a career, they affect the whole pipeline, from how people even write job ads to who gets considered for jobs. I mean, all the studies that show identical resumes that have Brian versus Karen on them, Brian gets looked at much more often than Karen does. The qualifications don't count. We know this for job promotions and all of that. I think what is that is becoming more and more well established, and I think the conversation is out there. And I think the useful part of that conversation is that it's pointing out that none of us is trying. None of us wakes up in the morning and says, "Gee, I'm going to be super sexist today." Like that's not, like a personal agenda, right? But yet somehow we engage in a system that is producing outcomes that don't always favor women. If you conceptualize yourself to be in a meritocracy, that actually makes things worse. It gives you moral credentials. You are no longer on guard to make sure that you're not being biased because you think it's a meritocracy. We're only rewarding based on performance. And the experiments show that is precisely in those contexts, which include academia and most business contexts, we like to think that we operate in a meritocracy, that actually gets in our way.
We were seeing things coming out in performance reviews, and BMO has a very extensive talent roundtable program that goes on where annually we assess talent across the organization and defines our leadership pipeline ranks, right? There were different things that kept coming out that we had a sense of anecdotally and really wanted to get under to say, is this a meaningful barrier for us right now that's preventing us from achieving our goals? Because we do have some very explicit goals, for example, 40% women in our senior leadership roles by 2016. And Read-Through worked with us, in fact, to undertake an assessment of 300 more leaders. We did the Intercultural Development Inventory survey with them. Bottom line, what we learned was that 81% of our leadership teams were in a category known as minimization. And essentially what this is that leaders, when they're presented with difference, they don't see the differences or they choose not to focus on them. They look for opportunities of sameness, right? So it's some of those fundamental types of bias that we know are alive and well around affirmation bias, right? Kind of mini-me syndrome, these things, that people were naturally doing this. And it wasn't out of intent, right? Or malicious intent or anything like that. It's because we naturally have a tendency to stereotype in these ways. And these are ways in which we process information, and specifically difference. But at the end of the day, they're limiting us in terms of our judgments of talent, and certainly equitable judgments of talent as well.